Welcome to Design to Inspire, a place where we motivate, inspire, and engage you. Today's topic is going to be very powerful, very inspirational, and I will be speaking with Crystal, a faith driven Jamaican national who is passionate about youth development and women empowerment. She is a transformational leader with over 10 years of experience fostering consensus and capacity. Crystal recently graduated as a valedictorian from St. Mary's University with a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology. But most recently, Crystal completed the role of chair of St. Mary's University Students Association Board of Directors, developing policies for the organization's strategic planning. Beyond leadership, Crystal is an entrepreneur with businesses in the beauty and health and wellness industry. She also established an NGO dubbed Shero Anti-Trafficking League. Shero Anti-Trafficking League aims to prevent human sex trafficking while restoring and empowering survivors breaking the chains of exploitation. Crystal, a 24-year-old with a powerful voice who is adamant for the change, for the inspiration, for the motivation of the younger generation, will be talking with me today. I hope you will enjoy. Thank you so much, Crystal, for joining and allowing me to interview you. It's my pleasure having you here today. Thank you and welcome to the Supreme Vibes Radio.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me, Charlene.
Great. You have a powerful story, and I'm glad that you chose this platform to share your story as we continue to inspire, motivate, and engage. In this time, it is really necessary because sometimes people think that, their past should determine their future. And we want to help those people to understand that, listen, your past should determine your progress and not so much that you have to live your past throughout your entire life. And you are an epitome of that. So let us get into that.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. And to start, we start at the beginning. And so, Crystal, I want you to tell me a little bit about yourself, how you grew up. Tell me a little bit about you, the Crystal before, the Crystal now.
Wow, that's interesting. The Crystal before, the Crystal now. I grew up in a single parent family with my mother, Rose Daly, and my twin brother, Christopher Witter. I grew up in humble beginnings, so, not well, not middle class, but somewhat enough for my mother to put food on the table for us. My mother was very strict. And so growing up, Christopher and I were very mysterious. I don't know what the connection is between a strict parent and mysterious children.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's what we were. So being sheltered, Chris and I were very, as I mentioned before, mysterious. Anything he said, to do, I would do. And I was kind of the Freddy one. So because I didn't like the beating, I tried to just be the cautious one. But one of those adventures, one day our neighbor's dog had some puppies, and my brother and I decided to borrow one of them.
Borrow the puppy.
Yeah, to borrow the puppy. So we just took the puppy, put him in a dresser drawer, and said, okay, this will be my mother's surprise when she got home. And let me tell you, Charlene, that was the end of freedom for us. Every day after that, our mother locked us up in the house and we couldn't really get to go anywhere. But so when she got home, she was most times, tired and so because she worked and she was the only person working and so. But that was the last day of freedom. And, from that, I was somewhat pushing to doing the bare minimum at home, reading. I was a bookworm up to this day. In high school, my brother called me brains just because of how, I loved reading. The whole day I'll be reading and writing. That was just me growing up. And, growing up, I also strive for excellence and, impact at a very young age. Being, just my twin brother and my mom, I was given a lot of responsibility. So I kind of grew up before my time. Among my peers, I was like somewhat the most mature at all times. And with some responsibilities, I remember in primary school, I would go to the post office. I would, pay the rent for my mother. She would give me the money. I would have a long list. Imagine this is a girl going to the supermarket asking people, help me do this, do that. So over time, I think that manifested in the type of person I am today, in being very mature, outgoing, and a leader. In primary school, I wanted to do more than just academics, because I realized at a young age, even though I was smart, I wanted something else. So I started getting involved in brownies. I was selling cookies. And over time, I became a peer counselor in primary school, like a class monitor, prefect. And undoubtedly, that followed me through my high school years. So in high school, I participated in a lot of extracurricular activities. I continued to focus on excellence. Right. And excellence for me meant academic pursuits, ensuring that I was top of the class, ensuring that I participated in every activity, or not every activity, but the activities that I thought were, skill building and development. I was a cadet, even though I was a girly girl today.
Cadet.
Yeah.
That you mean, cadet, when you think of cadet, you think about males, right?
Exactly. I was one of, I think, 5 or so girls when I just started, and
right.
I still pursue, but that was something that gave me strength. So doing things like that, I became president of journalism club, and then later, continuing on the same trajectory, I became head girl. Doing everything. My mother didn't have it, financially, so she thought education was the vehicle that will get us to where we want in life, and that's how I had that mindset in the back of my head. Some days in high school, I would struggle to find lunch money, so academics, they gave me a way out in terms of securing scholarships, in terms of getting funding from different organizations and different people. And I remember, not a lot of people know this story, but I have a Gizada story where that could be the only thing I could afford, during high school. And my friends would say, "You love Gizada door," like,
You just played it off. Yes, I love Gizada. But in truth and in fact, Gizada was all you could afford.
Right. So I would buy Gizadas. I remember later in sixth form, I used to share lunch with my friends and so on. And I remember one of those instances, I used to, for a few times, I should say, I used to sell in the Coronation Market in Kingston. I'm from Mandeville, but I had a few family members who were farmers, and a few times we went there, sell, skilling and thyme. So I had that kind of outlook on life. I saw I was exposed to that. And the reason why at a young age I was selling in the market is to afford tuition or afford high school fees. Out of that, though, there were some negatives. I remember one day I was coming back from the Coronation Market in Kingston, Jamaica, and, I experienced sexual assault. And that kind of shifted my focus from everything I sort of thought before. And I thought to myself, whoa, here I am just going out. My mother sent me to, try and, fend for myself. And I was interested. I was not forced to go, but trying to make a way out, but then experiencing that. So in a nutshell, that's my life to this point.
Okay. Wow. But one thing you mentioned that had me was that you grew up in a single parent home, and this single parent home the leader was really the mother, and she was a strict person who ensured that you and your brother both got the education you needed, even with her, minimal ability to provide for same, she still ensured that you were able to go to school and to get the education because she figured that would be your way out. What would you say to some persons who believe that mothers can't raise children to be productive? You're productive. You know, mothers can't raise, I mean, a single home, a single parent home with a mother means that, you know, the children are going to be broken, the children are going to be lazy, the children are going to be spoiled.
Yeah. That's an interesting one. And I would say to be a strong parent, to be a single parent rather, you have to be strong. Like you have to, it's no option out but to raise your children. And I you know, I'm aware that some parents who don't have the support might not do that. They might just focus on themselves, but to have a parent that focused on ensuring that we had a good start to an education was very important and was very inspirational for myself and for my twin brother as well. And that goes without challenges. You know, I'm not saying that it was a smooth ride, but there are advantages. You know, it's not always the opposite of, okay, these children are not going to come out productive. They're not going to have a way. They're going to be broken. Yes, they can be broken. However, it's what you use with those lemons. You know,
lemons and think about sugar, right?
Yes, exactly.
Right. Brilliant. Now, let me ask you another question, and it came from what you said. You said that on your way back from Coronation Market, trying to assist with ensuring that you were able to attend school. So you're trying to sell your produce, whatever those were, right? And enjoying it as well because you were not forced, right? You just thought that you had to play a role to help your mother. On your way back from Coronation Market, you experienced sexual assault. How did you deal with it? How did you view it, and how did you deal with it? Was it just that one time?
Yeah. So how I dealt with it, to be honest, for a long time I suppressed it. You know, I didn't talk about it. I just continued my life as if nothing really happened. I didn't talk about it, but it still affected me. It was just this underlining, you know, way I approach the situation. Not to, if I didn't bring it up, it never happened. If I didn't think about it, it never happened. But I had my strategies, you know. So my first response was disassociation. And if you knew me, you would know that I was always out there, and I still continue to be out there, but in a way that I didn't feel connected to people. I tried to just live in my own world. Anything that I thought was the right, that's what I did. And another coping mechanism I used was to get immersed in everything at school.
Right.
You know, from leadership, during high school, I made myself busy intentionally. So I was always involved in one thing or the other. And I used that because it was where I found joy. The more time I spent outside of my house, is the more I was so involved that I forgot about what reality is. And one of the motivating factors I used too was to leave Jamaica. That was always on my mind, to leave Jamaica. But even after experiencing this, I was like, yes, I have to get out for more reasons than one. This one of them. And the disassociation helps to separate you from your experiences, but eventually, you know, during life, it still came up. This underlying hurt, this underlying pain still manifested in relationships. It still manifested in and relationships, whether intimate or otherwise, you know, with friends.
Because sometimes, some days you'll have a trigger because you didn't really deal with it the way that, you know, it would be out of your system. It's in your system, but just suppressed.
Yeah, and for us, as I mentioned earlier, my mom was so strict too. So going to parties and having fun, quote unquote fun, was not a part of our reality, my brother and I. So the more time I spent outside of school, like outside of the house at school, was beneficial for me. I went on a lot of cadet camps. I was so involved that I didn't even have time to think about what was happening. And, you know, over time, after going through some of the relationships, I realized that, Crystal, something all right. Like,
Right, right. I hear your dialect coming out.
yeah, something. No, man, we need to deal with that. So before this negative experience, also, I want to highlight that I was always intrinsically motivated. I felt like I had to push myself, and I had to use my own power to get to where I want to go. So the circumstances didn't stop me, but it was still underlining. And I kept reading other people's stories. One of my biggest, my most favorite book is Why Did the Caged Bird Sing, where Maya Angelou spoke about her experience with sexual abuse and sexual assault. And I saw myself in her and saw how she became so great. And I thought, okay, it's attainable. This one
Right.
negative experience is not the
Right.
end of the world. It's how you use your story. And throughout my life, I didn't know that one experience would propel me into doing what I am doing today, and having that outlook of social justice and wanting to try and prevent situations like this from happening to other women, and even if they experience it, find a way to empower them. So using my voice and my platform to do so.
Brilliant, brilliant. And so you did migrate, right? So you grew up in Jamaica, but and heard you said that it has always been in the back of your head that you need to leave Jamaica, especially when you experienced the sexual assault. It became more prevalent. It became more important for you that you had to leave Jamaica, and so you did.
Yes, I
You
did.
did, right? So you made it happen. And so what was the, well, I know the motivating factor is that you thought that, leaving Jamaica will help you to, broaden out your horizon in terms of being more successful at whatever it is that you want to do. But then that came and it kind of propelled you some more, right? How did that transition happen for you, though?
Yeah, that's super interesting. Started, meant in third form high school. I received an opportunity to represent at the Emerging Global Leaders Program. So I was one of 8 students participating in a global leadership conference.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the youngest participant at the time. And I got a chance 1 week. Yeah, 1 week at the conference. And that 1 week, I didn't realize, I knew I had leadership skills, but I didn't realize they were so impactful. And I didn't realize the power of having leaders, thoughtful leaders, ready to make change. So having been exposed to that from a young age, I was like, Canada is home.
Right.
It's where I need to go back to Canada. I need to go back to Canada to experience that thrill as a young person that I experienced at 13 or 14. And I saw what the world is, because that was the first time I got a chance to travel outside of my home country too. And I saw the number of opportunities. I saw my peers who impacted their countries in different ways, because we had participants from all over the world. So the transition started from that moment. I went to Canada, saw what it was like, and said, okay, I'm going back for university. I'm going back. So I lived with that thought for maybe 4 years until I finally made a way out. The transition in 2016 from high school, graduating and so on, to me was smooth, but I was very naive. I was naive about the realities here. I was naive that, I was coming to the country of milk and honey.
Right, right.
And it was challenging. Someone very special, Valda Lemonius, who recently passed, she gave me the chance to pursue my education in Canada. And though challenging, the experience was fulfilling. I made the same impact or even greater, continuing on the trajectory of having that sense of self and that importance of giving back to my community and empowering other people who look like me. So yeah, that's how I transitioned from home to to Canada, where I'm at right now.
All right. Tell me some of the things that you are involved in now. So now you would have gone through your education. I think you're still furthering, because it doesn't seem like there is an end for Crystal.
Not
You're
now.
always evolving, right? But you're at a place now where you are being impactful, where you are motivating, where you are inspiring. Tell me some of the things that you're working on, some of the projects that you're involved in.
Mhm. So currently I'm involved in a number of projects, but the first one, I wouldn't say it's most dear to my heart, but the one that I'm putting a lot of energy in is organizing the Shiro Anti-Trafficking League. And what we do, we aim to prevent human sex trafficking in Jamaica through advocacy, prevention, and empowering victims or survivors. I prefer to use the word survivors, so that they can break the chains of sexual exploitation. I started my project in maybe late March, early April. In light of the death of Kenneth Jackson, and applying my story and seeing the need for more conversation around some of the topics that are more taboo, like sexual exploitation and abuse and so on. I'm also involved in the Open Harbor Refugee Association, where I volunteer to be. I'm the donations coordinator. Once you secure an apartment for refugees coming into Canada, I will go and decorate,
Wow.
make the apartment. Yeah, so making the apartment a home. A home is more than just the furniture. It's how they're laid out. It's the love that is put into putting everything together. So that's
right.
I also contribute as a leadership advisor to UNICEF Halifax, or UNICEF St. Mary's University. And I'm also working as the mentorship coordinator for Manchester High School alumni chapter, the Toronto group. But yeah, lots of projects going on. I have my own businesses. I co-founded Crystal Cheddar Herbarium with my twin brother. And what we do is we sell natural herbal products from Jamaica, natural remedies that promote holistic health and development. So if you know about sea moss, you know about the real Cersei.
Right.
And that business was founded during COVID-19. I'm a professional eyelash extension technician, and exploring some other entrepreneurial pursuits. So yeah, a lot of wheels turning at the same time, but yeah, that's a little bit about what I've been involved in.
Right, and I'm going to get to some questions there, but it's interesting that you overcame some trials in your early life. You grew up in a single parent home, but you did not let that determine who you are in terms of failures and being sorry for yourself. You use that to propel you into greatness. I want to call you an ambassador, And I heard you're welcome. I heard you mentioned about human trafficking. Is this a widespread issue? Do you find this to be a widespread issue? And you said something about human trafficking and Jamaica. You did some sort of research where that is concerned. Could you expound a little bit on that for me and let me understand, that our listeners understand that, it's a serious situation that is as real as day and night?
Yeah, definitely. Human trafficking, without a doubt, is a widespread issue. And, just for the listeners, this is ranked, like the process of human trafficking is ranked the third most popular criminal activity in the world. It's a $150 billion industry. And just to back up a little bit on how I got interested into doing some of the work here, like last year around December, someone approached me, one of my mentors approached me for a job opportunity. I was in Jamaica at the time, and this was between the time when a lot of cases of rape and missing and murder women came up, and he said he only gave me the types of the topic that I'll be focusing on. He said, Crystal, you like this opportunity, it's along social justice, and I know you're interested. The topic is the only thing I have right now, and it's human trafficking. So I said, I allowed God to take the reins, and I said, all right, sure, I can do it. In January, I started as a project coordinator, organizing a project aimed at addressing human sex trafficking in Atlantic Canada. Seeing the impact of my work and how, you know, the prevalence of this issue on a global scale from that project really inspired me to contribute to human trafficking prevention and alleviation in Jamaica. After I completed that project, one day I sat down and I was like, if Canada, being a third world country, has so much of this issue, I wonder what Jamaica
It's like,
like. And
right.
honestly, Charlene, when I started doing my research, I was heartbroken. I
Baffled,
was
yes.
disappointed. I was
Yes.
so shocked at the prevalence of human trafficking in Jamaica, and it's not talked about. So when I looked on, for example, the recent trafficking persons report, human trafficking is a growing industry, you know, especially since COVID-19, and you know that most of the perpetrators are online, you know, targeting the most vulnerable. The most vulnerable are women. 73% of human trafficking victims are women, you know, women and children and even men. So I you know, from all of that statistics and, you know, just getting so much knowledge around Jamaica's approach and the accountability of the government in addressing this issue, I thought we need to do something. This is bigger than the media portrays it to be in Jamaica because there's less discussion about it, and it's also bigger than any one citizen or any one department or NGO can really work on. So yeah, like human trafficking, I've never been exposed to it before. I was never a victim, but because of my experience
Involvement, right.
in, you know,
In the project.
yeah, and
Oh,
yeah, because of my direct experience with sexual exploitation, I made the connection, and I was like,
yes.
no, you know, if you understand what human trafficking is, it's exploitation for money, you know, force, coercion, and there are different forms of human trafficking, but the most popular one in Jamaica and around the world is sex trafficking. Children are involved. So I really I could talk all day about this, Charlene, but I took, you know, out of due diligence, I went and did my research. I identified some of the red flags. For example, one of the popular ones is, you know, you see those too good to be true jobs posted online or posted in the newspaper somewhere, and it's false. It's just a false advertisement to get you in a human trafficking ring. So yeah, beyond all of that, I think that there needs to be more vocalization. There needs to be more dialogue on
There
the
needs to
issue.
be a more awareness surrounding the issue. We are too quiet. We're too quiet. So after jumping so many hurdles, you would think that, you know, yes, you are now paving the path of success. But I mean, just in life is opposites, built on opposites. You have good, you have bad, you have good, you have evil, you have up, you have down, you have day, you have night, right? And that kind of somewhat create the balance. And so you jumping so many hurdles, you know, being so successful, being so involved, and still young, 24, right? She is 24, listeners. She sounds like someone who is way in their 40s or 50 with the experience, but she is only 24. 24 years old. You still had another hurdle to jump. And I know Crystal is going to look into this situation and see how best she can be a voice. Where you were invited to an interview, but you were not selected because of a reason. I allow you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so again, like you said, Charlene, this was another way for me to use my voice, and I'll just tell you briefly what happened. So I interviewed for this job. I had a telephone interview first, which went smoothly. You know, I thought I did well, was asked for an in-person interview. They were hiring quite quickly. I went for the interview, and just for context, I interviewed for an Asian company. And, you know, throughout the interview, at first it started off quite casual, and, you know, throughout the interview I had a few questions like, you know, how did you develop such a good command of English? You know, did you speak English before? Because, you know, understanding that some of the Asians come here to Canada or Nova Scotia to go to language school, I politely responded, English is my first language. I am from Jamaica,
Jamaica.
so it makes sense. But I realized that there was some hesitation, even though I answered my questions well, like, the basic interview questions, I dressed professionally. It was not that. My experience was also questioned, like, wow, as soon as you came to Canada since 2016, you've been involved in leadership projects. You are spearheading this. You were a chair of a board. You develop policies. How? So that was the question in the interview, and that was sort of a red flag, and I became slightly uncomfortable. But I had to maintain poise.
Maintain your professional conduct, right?
Yeah. So I'm there for an interview. That was the assignment. I understood the assignment, and that's what I'm going to do, right?
Right.
Close to the end of the interview, and this was also one of the longest interviews I've had. It spanned around 90 minutes, and we had good rapport, not in a bad way, but we had that good rapport and so on. But the question or the statement that took me back, far back, was, you're so eloquent, you're so professional, and, we really like you, but you're Black.
Oh, wow. That was said to you.
Yes.
It was not a subliminal message. That was just said.
Yes, that was said to me. Right in my face.
Wow.
Eye contact, everything.
Wow.
And in the moment, again, I was so stoic. I did not, change my facial expression or anything. And if you know me in real, and personally, everything shows on my face, my emotions, everything. But in that moment, I didn't, because I was trying to understand that my interviewer was coming from, or my potential employer rather. So after that statement, he mentioned that, when he came to Canada, he experienced discrimination, and Canada is not as you seem. And I was like, okay, that's true. And, just trying to understand, because I have a heart of gratitude and positivity. I'm so optimistic that I think it's just someone explained to me their experience, but it was beyond that. So because of their experience, they thought that I was not fit, or I would be a disadvantage in achieving the goal of the role I had, which was to connect and make relationships with business leaders in Halifax. He thought me being Black
would not work. And he was also shocked that that's what I've been doing all my time in Canada, building relationships, influencing policy. But he could not see beyond that, but only saw my skin color. And after that, this was the first time I realized that I could go into a depressive state. Yes. And, out of not depression, but I wanted to share my experience on LinkedIn. I wanted to have other people see what's going on. What is really happening? Because again, it's not spoken about a lot. People are not aware as whole. The awareness is somewhat, I would want to say, dormant. Yes, from time to time, you might have persons like yourself who would mention it, but it's not spoken a lot until something goes wrong.
Mm-hmm. And, with the same somewhat naive mentality I had as a child, I mentioned it too earlier, that coming to Canada, I thought this was the place of milk and honey and all the positivity will be here. So that really took me down, that statement and that experience. And I shared my experience on Sunday, and the interview was on the Friday. And I was so overwhelmed by the response. 34,000 plus people viewed and shared.
I saw it. While I was researching Crystal, Witter, I saw it. Yes.
Yeah, and the impact that had, I can't even begin to tell you how powerful me just voicing my experience helped. Business leaders reach out to me.
Yes, I saw that you were even offered jobs.
Yeah, and my hand even, and this was a month ago. So even though I'm just like, I recently just made a decision on what I really want to do, because so many offers were coming in. I received an invitation from the senator, from a senator in Canada, like so many people who have never ever thought I could ever meet or have a conversation with. connected with me, and they reassured me that, listen, that one experience does not represent Canada. Even though it's negative, there are positive people out there, and perhaps that's not where you're supposed to be working. And you made the right decision not to pursue that goal, but you just needed something. You know, sometimes you just need that light. You just need God to show up and say, this
Yes,
path
this is not it.
This is not it.
My question though, did the interviewer, should I say your potential employer, did they reach out to you
Following the
after you made it public as to your experience? Because they would know. You didn't make mention of the company or who, but if I was a person who engaged you, then I would know that definitely this is me. Did anyone reach out to you about it?
It's interesting. Shirley, they reached out to me maybe 5 days after the interview, and they offered me the job.
And you declined.
And I respectfully declined. And I knew that they must have seen it because of the approach. It was not like, hi, Crystal, congratulations, you received the job. It was more so, are you still interested because of this, or are you still interested because of that? And I was like, oh, I didn't know that I got the job. I was not told that I got the job. That was my response. So yeah, I assume that they saw it and tried to, do damage control to mitigate whatever.
But even while doing damage control, they were still doing some more damage because they weren't being genuine about their control.
Exactly. And after everything, I made up my mind, this is not the place to be, because I can't be denied twice. And after being denied once, why would I try to?
I like the way you say it, you can't be denied twice. All right. But it's good, it's good that, you see, in life sometimes some things happen to us to wake us up, because again, you said you were naive, you were somewhat vulnerable, because being naive also encourage vulnerability, right? So you were a little bit vulnerable as well. And sometimes they just need that jive, that push, that surprise to kind of wake you up, open up your eyes. And not only that, sometimes when negative situation reaches us, it is paving the path for positivity, for us to embrace and realize positivity, because out of that your hands are full. And I was reading and I was like, wow, when I went through, I couldn't read anymore. I wasn't going to sit in, because I'm not Crystal, I'm not the person that you're talking to. But I went through and I was like, wow, this is, and to me, I believe that it opens some avenues for you, because here and now you have another story to tell. You have another platform to build on. So I just want to say to listeners, sometimes when negative things reach you, when you experience negative things, it's for you. I've always said, instead of allowing your your stumbling blocks to allow you to stumble and stay grounded, stay, face down, use your stumbling blocks as stepping stones, because the only way you're going to rise above the challenges is if you realize the purpose of the challenge in your life. Yes, I just wanted to say that. I don't want to dwell anymore on that, because I'm sure that you're going to build a platform and I'm going to be listening out for it, because Crystal is not going to let that go. My next question to you though, Crystal, we're wrapping up a little bit, is how do you stay motivated? You, Crystal, aside from in your space, in your quiet moment, when there is no project right now, when there is no job that you're going to, in your space, in your quiet moment, how do you stay grounded? How do you stay motivated?
A lot of people always ask me that question, and it's always so challenging to answer. But my response, to me, it's not rocket science, but how I stay grounded. The first thing, I have a positive outlook on life, and most times I approach life with the innocence of a child. Like when I was younger, Charlene, I made so many bold moves, so many bold decisions that created a successful path for me. And, as a child, you're not fearful, you're a risk taker. So I continue
Yes.
to have that
Yes.
outlook on life. I'm a risk taker and I go for what I want. So that having that outlook kind of helps me to stay grounded. I also read a lot of self-help books and autobiographies, like I mentioned. I like to read other people's stories, especially people who I can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those people are include Oprah Winfrey.
Yes, I was listening for you to say Oprah Winfrey because I'm saying you're talking about all these things. Where is Oprah Winfrey? I was listening for you to mention her name. Yes.
Yeah, so if Oprah Winfrey ever hears this, I really wanted an opportunity to talk to her, even to meet her. But yeah, Oprah Winfrey, Maya Angelou, and this one other person, Sidney Poitier. He was a famous actor
Right.
that went through a lot of things. And so reading self-help books, keeping myself grounded, and having a positive outlook motivates me. But beyond that, my twin brother Christopher is also very influential in my life. I don't see the strength he sees, but the strength he sees in me is I can never understand it. He would say
So he's like your muse.
yeah, the power I get from him whenever I'm down, he always reminds me, sis, you have the power to you remember you overcome this. This is not he reminds me that listen,
you have a purpose.
Yeah, and I'm like that to him too, because we've been supporting each other growing up. He's like I'm his parent, he's my parent, in a sense. So having that person who is your biggest support system, who all the time, 24/7 you can call on, was really impactful for me. I don't ask for much, but what he gives to me and the energy that he gives to me really helped me to stay grounded. Yeah. Also, motivation comes from a lot of people around me that I've met throughout my life, people that are not family. I've received some of the biggest help and support from strangers. My biggest mentor passed away recently, and she gave me a chance. And sometimes all people want is a chance. When the stumbling blocks come down and your only way is another person, is a chance that will work. Someone really bet on me. Grandma Valda, I called her, and her family, the Lemonious family. So having people who sees your potential even before you see it really motivates me. And I have a saying, it's a Bible verse, I don't remember the specific quote now, but it says, to whom much is given, much is expected. And I live by that, and that keeps me motivated. The many people who helped me, the angels that God sent me to guide me even through my life here in Canada, which is not easy. It will need a whole talk show to talk about my journey, the ups and downs, how I didn't have a secure place when I came to Canada. I never had tuition, Charlene, coming to Canada. So motivation like this keeps me going, having that support system, having individuals always in your corner. My grandmother, she believes in me like nobody else, and having someone see your inputs and your influence in the world, who cares about it and is always willing to support you, was really important. My partner and my friends also were very influential and continue to support me and remind me that, okay, for example, this morning I was told, Crystal, you need to be cautious. If you're doing a lot of public speaking these days, once you do good, it's easier that more people would have a lot of things to say, because people have said bad things, Charlene, but having that concept in my head and people supporting me through this journey of being a quote unquote public figure.
Right. You are an ambassador, public figure, philanthropist. You can become a motivational speaker and advocate for change.
Yeah, and I to stay motivated too, Charlene, I try to impact other people. That's the true legacy, impacting other people and reminding them that through me, you can see yourself and you can create your own path and you can grow into your full potential. So yeah, that's generally some of the things I think about when I sit down and try to cope with life.
I want to introduce someone to you. I like to listen to Les Brown. I don't know if you've ever listened to him, Les Brown. I am a Les Brown. Les Brown, if you're listening to us, please give us a link. But Les Brown, I like to listen. I used to, what I do, like in the mornings while I prepare myself for work, because a lot of people think that when you prepare yourself for your day's journey, it's just getting dressed, brushing your teeth, putting on your best suit. No, you have to mentally prepare yourself as well. And my mental preparation comes through Les Brown. So while I'm preparing breakfast, I'm listening to Les Brown. During the shower, I'm listening to him for the entire morning. For my preparation. Well, it's gym first. For my preparation to when I'm going through the door, I'm listening to Les Brown. I'm a Les Brown person. So if you've never heard of him, you can listen to him. He has some very good motivation, and he has a story, right? So I'm introducing you to him. You can Google him. But thank you. It is very important to always have that support system. Surround yourself with the right type of person, and the right type of persons doesn't. And Les Brown will tell you this. But the right type of persons doesn't necessarily mean the only persons who are going to tell you you're a go-getter, you're a go-getter. You need the naysayers too. You need the naysayers too, but you must determine how close you let them in, because the persons who smile with you, and you're supposed to be able to, acknowledge and know the type of persons you're dealing with. The persons who you smile with and they smile back at you, deep down that they're not with you, but they are there for a purpose, because they help to motivate you too. The naysayers, the ones who tell you can't do it, the ones who tell you will never do it, the ones who, you need that, but you don't need that to take over your entire life. So when I say surround yourself with the right type of persons, I mean, again, I'm going back to where I started. In life, there's a balance. You can't have good without you have bad. There is a balance, and you have to balance that, because you need to remember that, listen, nothing is perfect, and I have to work to get this going. And if you truly believed everything was perfect, then you would not be the ambassador you are, because then it means that there is no need for you to try to motivate other persons, because their lives are perfect, right? So I just wanted to put that out, listeners. You've listened to Crystal's story, and she's coming from far, right? And she's only 24. I just need to say that. I just need to remind you of that. But sexual abuse, human trafficking, racial discrimination. Though I say nothing is perfect, do you think they can be eliminated?
The optimism would say, yes, of course it can be eliminated. But realism would say it's going to be challenging.
Very challenging.
It takes a movement, it takes collaboration, and it's no doubt that one of the SDGs, I think the Sustainable Development Goal 17 talks about partnerships and collaboration. We can't achieve anything, whether that might be racial inequity, whether that might be sexual exploitation, without partnerships and other people.
Gender discrimination.
Yeah. Governments, and not even, that's high level. Let's talk about the regular citizen. If you're not engaging the regular citizen in the importance of advocating on behalf of sexual exploitation survivors, who is? Like, if the regular person don't understand, if children in high school don't understand what's going on until they go into university and experience that, there's no remedy when it's too far. If we catch it at the bud, see ourselves as citizens of change and citizens of the world, then we'll be able to take on bigger challenges within a group collaboratively. Then we'll be able to speak up without fear. Currently, and I go back to this a lot, where people don't like talking about sexual exploitation. They like talking about sex, but they don't, as soon as it touches exploitation and abuse, everybody's quiet.
Mute.
They become mute. And I want that to change. As soon as we start having these conversations, Nelson Mandela didn't say, okay, let me not talk about racism. Oprah did not say, let me stop sharing my story. They use their stories, and as a nation, I'm not going to try and generalize here, but I hope and I have faith in the people of Jamaica that will be able to stand together to come against some of these like tragic and perilous events happening in our island. We need to take responsibility. We need to hold our government accountable. Other countries in the world too. Here in Canada, life is not perfect, but I see it as a need for us all to come together, have more interviews like you're doing, Charlene, give people the platform and engage youths, engage young
Yes.
people.
Yes. That
You
is
know,
important.
a lot of new ideas. We need both. There has to be a balance of ideas. You know, we learn from a lot of the successes of the past people, the activists and so on. Now we're willing and ready to join you at the board table and talk about some of the ways that we as a country or as a movement can address human trafficking, can address sexual exploitation. And going back to your question, even though I talk about optimism of, you know, alleviating these issues and realizing to know that, okay, it's hard to alleviate these issues, we have to be intentional about what we're doing. Why are we doing it? Who is it going to impact? It's not impacting me today.
Right.
Building a future for the other generations to come. And I think like that because I've worked in policy development and strategic planning for a while now, and I understand the importance of creating a world fit for the future. You know what I mean? Sustainability, you know, having an eco-friendly environment, basics of what we should be focusing on. So yeah, long and short answer, yes, we can solve these issues.
But it's going to take a collaborative effort from all for us to you know, one huge voice. For persons who would have gone, I don't want to, you know, it's I enjoy talking to you, and I really don't want to keep you long, but I just enjoy talking to you. And I want to say, this is my last question. I want to say this, but for persons who would have gone through similar trials like you have, some we haven't spoken about because it would take a day and a night, right? What would your motivational what would you say to them? How would you inspire these person on a level where they can understand? So aside from, you know, the one voice, aside from the projects that you're working on, it's Crystal now talking to Jane, who has gone through a similar situation, either racism, either sexual exploitation, human trafficking. What would Crystal say to this person to motivate, uplift, inspire this person?
I would say to Jane and to everyone listening that needs the motivation, own your life. Don't own the negative experiences. When you own the negative experiences, you become attached to the pain. You know, when you own the negative experiences, you get attached to the concept and the hurt, like you're reliving it. When you own your life, you have the power to redesign it, recondition your mindset, and in doing so, setting your eyes on like aspirational goals for yourself. I wrote down one goal in 2016 or 2012 rather, to study in Canada, and I achieved it. Recording your progress is also important. So for anyone, if you're not interested in journaling or so, even a one note somewhere in your phone or a one text, I want to achieve this. But recording your progress. Today I fall, tomorrow I'll rise. And these are practical steps, practical takeaways for anyone listening that might need it. Once you open yourself to receiving positivity would also find you. And I say this to say, whenever you're showing up for something, show up as your best self always.
Always.
Always. I don't know if you see it, Charlene, but I'm a fashion enthusiast. Like I love fashion. I love dressing up. I love, you know, looking cute and beautiful and everything. Because when you look at it, for me, when you show up, when you look your best, you feel your best. I don't know if anybody have been depressed and you look when you're here in the mirror and say, no man, I need a fix up.
Right.
So having that uplifting attitude that, okay, you don't know who you're going to meet when you go on the bus, you don't know who you're going to meet in a taxi, you don't know which teacher is looking at you and say, oh, you know that I could give that person an opportunity, but they don't show up for it. You have to show up like you're ready for whatever you want to achieve in life. And I think that's practical. If that might mean having a one blazer and a one black skirt and a
neutral color,
neutral color,
right.
For the men, you have now one black pants and a one black jacket too. You know, if you have a big event or a little, you know, not a little interview, but doing small things to get to where you are, because that one pants, that one skirt, that one tie will multiply.
Mm-hmm.
You know, another motivation, a tip I'll leave is that be human. And I've had to experience this recently where I had to take a break and say, Crystal, don't take this contract. I took 1 week off of work and I said to my twin, I said, Chris, I don't know how to manage, but I'm taking 1 week. I'm not going to take this job. I'm going to sit and I'm going to relax. Why? We need time to feel the emotions. We can't talk the emotions away. You know, we can't indulge all the time in maybe drinking and smoking and stuff like that. Sometimes we need to feel, because it's out of feeling that we understand where we are. And I'm talking personally, from personal experience, where I had to sit down and feel. I had to feel the sadness, but knowing also that, listen, this is for a short period of time. And it worked. It worked for me. You know, oftentimes we don't want to feel negative energy, but listen, it's life. Not every day is going to be, oh, you know, and hooray, I'm good and I can eat healthy all the time. No. You have to acknowledge that when the struggles come, you have the power and the right timing to make a change or make an impact and redirect those sales. And, you know, for me, faith is one of those vehicles that I use. I've developed a routine. I pray before bed. I'm not perfect, but small things that I have to do to uplift myself. If you're not faith-based, whatever you're doing, maybe exercising or hanging out with a certain group of people, doing those little things to uplift yourself and to stay motivated and on track will be very helpful.
Great. I want to thank you so very much, Crystal. Thank you so very much for sharing your story. Thank you so very much for inspiring and motivating our listeners. I'm sure that today they're going to have a beautiful day. As a matter of fact, for the rest of the year, for the rest of their lives, they will. I admire you. I admire the work that you do. I admire your energy. And you're such a beautiful young person. And you give me hope that there's hope for not just Canada or Jamaica, but for the world, because one voice reaches many. Thank you so very much for taking the time out. Thank you so very much for sharing. And we look forward to sharing with you in the future sometimes, because I know you have good things, great things coming in the future. So thank you, Crystal.
Thank you so much, Charlene. Thank you for also using your platform to inspire. I listened to a few of your sessions and I love the vibe and I love the energy. For anyone listening who would like to join the movement, the anti-trafficking movement in Jamaica, feel free to follow us on Instagram at Shiro.league or my personal account, Crystal___Witter. And I'd be happy to continue the conversation there. Thank you, Charlene.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you.